The council chamber stretched wide enough to hold representatives from 300 species. Colored lights shifted across the walls as alien delegates argued in dozens of languages. Translation devices hummed in the air, turning strange clicks and whistles into words everyone could understand. Ambassador Lisa sat in the human section, a small area near the back where Earth's voice carried little weight. She had been Earth's representative for 12 years now. 12 long years of sitting quietly while other species made decisions about the galaxy. 12 years of watching humans get ignored, dismissed, and sometimes openly mocked. Lisa kept her face calm, her hands folded on the smooth desk in front of her. She had learned patience in this job. She had learned that showing anger only made things worse. Counselor stood at the central platform. His reptilian features gleamed under the chamber lights. His tail swished back and forth as he spoke, a sign of pleasure among his kind. He was talking about humanity again. He usually was. The human colonies require proper management, said. His voice boomed through the translation system. These primitive beings lack the sophistication to govern multiple worlds. They struggle with basic resource distribution. Their technology remains decades behind civilized standards. The Council must intervene before their incompetence damages valuable territories. Laughter rippled through the chamber, not from everyone but from enough delegates to sting. Lisa kept her expression neutral. She had heard worse over the years, much worse. Earth has followed every regulation, she said, standing when the system gave her permission to speak. Our colonies are stable and productive. Our people are happy. We have broken no laws. Turned to look at her. His eyes were yellow with vertical pupils that narrowed with contempt. Compliance is not competence, Ambassador. Your species remains infantile by galactic standards. You have been part of the Council for 50 years, yet you contribute nothing of value. Your ships are slow. Your weapons are outdated. Your diplomatic influence is non-existent. Perhaps it is time to accept that humanity's place in the galaxy should be smaller. More laughter. Lisa sat down slowly. She touched the small communication device hidden in her sleeve. Her fingers moved in a pattern that sent a coded signal to Earth. Just 3 letters. Not yet. The Council voted an hour later. 247 species voted yes. 38 voted no. 15 abstained. The decree was official. Earth's 3 outer colonies, home to 2 million human citizens, would be transferred to Council administration within 30 days. Other species would take control of the governments, the resources, and the security forces. Humans living there would become second-class residents in their own homes. Lisa left the chamber in silence. She walked through the massive station that served as the Council's headquarters. Alien beings moved past her in the corridors, some on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6 or none at all. A few glanced at her with what might have been pity. Most did not look at her at all. Captain Jake waited for her near the docking bay, where the human diplomatic ship Horizon was attached to the station. He was a tall man in his 40s with gray hair starting to show at his temples. He had been commanding the Horizon for 8 years. In that time, he had never once been allowed to fire the ship's weapons, even in training exercises. Council regulations prohibited human ships from military activities in Council space. How bad? Jake asked quietly. Complete surrender of colonial authority, Lisa said. 30 days. Jake's jaw tightened. They're really doing it. They really are. They walked onto the Horizon together. The ship was small compared to Council vessels, barely large enough to house a crew of 40 humans. It had diplomatic markings along the hull and advanced communication systems, but its weapons were primitive by galactic standards. At least, that was what the Council believed. Lisa went straight to her private quarters and locked the door. She pulled out a secure communication terminal that looked like a simple data pad. She entered a code that took 30 seconds to type. The screen flickered, then showed a man's face. Commander Brandon Hayes looked tired. He always looked tired these days. They crossed the line, Lisa said. Brandon nodded slowly. You're sure? 2 million citizens, Brandon. They're taking our people. Then it's time. Brandon looked away from the camera for a moment. When he looked back, his eyes were hard. Protocol silence is ending. 50 years of waiting is over. Are we ready? Lisa asked. We've been ready for decades. The question is whether the Council is ready for us. The screen went dark. Lisa sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood and walked to her window. The view showed part of the Council station and beyond it, the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth continued spinning. Somewhere out there, Commander Brandon Hayes was sending orders that would change everything. On Earth's moon, buried deep inside a crater that looked abandoned from space, Brandon Hayes stood in a command center that should not exist. The room was filled with holographic displays showing star maps, fleet positions, and tactical data. Dozens of officers worked at stations that monitored every corner of human space. Begin Phase 2, Brandon said. Lieutenant Amy nodded from her position at the communications console. She was young for her rank, only 28, but she had been part of this project since the academy. She knew every protocol, every contingency, every nightmare scenario they had planned for. All stations responding, Amy said. Admiral Foster confirms the fleet is ready. Dr. Park confirms the weapons systems are online. Captain Sanders reports the Defiance is moving into position. Good. Brandon walked to the main display. It showed the 3 human colonies that were about to be seized. 3 worlds, 3 million people when counting all the settlements and space stations. 3 targets the Council thought were defenseless. Send the message, Brandon said. Standard diplomatic channels. Make sure every Council member sees it. The message was simple. Just 2 sentences that would either start a war or prevent one. Lisa would deliver it from the horizon in exactly 12 hours. For now, Brandon watched his screens and thought about the last 50 years. When Earth first made contact with the Galactic Council, humanity had been so excited. First contact with aliens, proof that life existed beyond Earth, an invitation to join a community of hundreds of species. It seemed like a dream. The dream had soured quickly. The Council had rules, so many rules. Humans could only travel certain routes. Human ships could only be so large, so fast, so well armed. Human colonies could only exist in specific regions. Human representatives could speak but rarely vote. Humans were new, primitive, and unimportant. Earth's governments had made a choice. They would follow the rules. They would smile and nod and accept every restriction. They would build their colonies slowly and carefully. They would send diplomats who swallowed insults without complaint. They would appear weak, harmless, and forgettable. And while the galaxy ignored them, humanity would prepare. It had taken 50 years. 50 years of secret construction. 50 years of hidden research. 50 years of playing a role while building something the Council never imagined possible. Earth had used its classified facilities, its best scientists, its most dedicated military personnel. They had created ships faster than Council vessels, weapons stronger than Council technology, defenses that could withstand anything the galaxy could throw at them. Protocol silence had a simple goal: make the Council forget that Earth was dangerous, make them think humanity was soft, make them so confident in their superiority that they would never see the truth until it was too late. The Council had just made their final mistake. They had threatened human lives. They had decided to take what was not theirs. They had pushed too far. Brandon Hayes looked at the countdown timer on his screen. 72 hours until the deadline Earth would give the Council. 72 hours for the galaxy to learn that silence was not weakness. It was strategy. The Council chamber buzzed with conversation as delegates arrived for the emergency session. 3 days had passed since the colonial decree. In those 3 days, Earth had sent exactly one message. It was short, formal, and completely unexpected. High Chancellor stood at his elevated platform. His 4 arms crossed over his broad chest. His species had led the Galactic Council for 2 centuries. They were large, powerful, and absolutely certain of their superiority. Had dismissed Earth's message the moment he read it. "The human ambassador wishes to address the Council," announced. His voice carried amusement. "We will hear her plea." Lisa walked to the speaker's platform. She moved calmly, her steps measured and deliberate. She had slept well last night, better than she had in years. The weight of pretending to be weak had finally lifted from her shoulders. "The Earth government formally requests the Council rescind the colonial decree," Lisa said. Her voice was steady and clear. "We have 72 hours to reach an agreement. After that deadline, there will be consequences." The chamber erupted in laughter. Not polite chuckles, but loud, mocking laughter that echoed from the high ceiling. Was laughing so hard his tail thrashed against the floor. "Consequences," repeated. "What consequences can humanity possibly impose on the Council? Your entire fleet consists of cargo vessels and outdated patrol ships. Your military forces could not defeat a single Council battle group. You have no allies, no leverage, and no options. Accept the decree gracefully, Ambassador, and perhaps the Council will allow your colonies to retain some autonomy." "We have given you our terms," Lisa said. 72 hours. "Or what?" called out from his seat. "Will you write angry letters? Will you refuse to trade with us? Please, human, tell us what terrible punishment Earth will deliver." Lisa looked at him directly. "You will find out if you force us to show you." She left the platform and walked out of the chamber. Behind her, the laughter continued. She did not look back. Jake was waiting in the corridor, along with Lieutenant Amy, who had arrived from Earth on a fast courier ship. "They think we're bluffing," Jake said. "Good," Lisa replied. "Let them think that for 3 more days." "Admiral Foster wants to know if we should reveal the fleet early," Amy said. "Show them what we have before the deadline." "No," Lisa shook her head firmly. "They need to make the choice. They need to decide whether to respect us or ignore us. If we show our strength too soon, they'll claim we threatened them. This way, when we act, everyone will know they were warned." Across the galaxy, on a space station orbiting one of Earth's colonies, Captain Sanders sat in the command chair of the warship Defiance. The ship was large, nearly a kilometer long, with smooth dark metal that absorbed sensor scans. It had been hidden in deep space for 3 years, waiting for this moment. "Status report," said. Her tactical officer, a man named Greg Turner, checked his displays. "All systems optimal, Captain. Weapons charged, shields ready, engines online. We can move on your order." "Hold position. We wait for the deadline." Looked at the main. It showed the colony below, a green and blue world called Hope's Landing. 50,000 humans lived there. Farmers, scientists, families. They had built homes, schools, and hospitals. They had made a life in the stars. The Council wanted to take it away. Not anymore. On Earth, in the hidden Lunar Command Center, Brandon Hayes watched tactical displays that showed positions across human space. 200 warships, all hidden, all waiting. Some were buried in asteroid fields. Others floated in the dark between stars. A few lurked near gas giants where sensor interference kept them invisible. Dr. Park entered the command center carrying a data pad. Was a small man in his 60s with thick glasses and a nervous habit of adjusting them every few minutes. He had led the weapons development program for 30 years. "Final system checks are complete," said. "All ships report ready status. The new shield generators are performing 40% above specifications. Our particle beams have greater range and power than any Council weapon I've analyzed." "How long have we been ahead of them?" Brandon asked. "Technologically, at least 20 years. The Council stagnated. They haven't had a major war in centuries, so they stopped innovating. We've been racing to catch up for 50 years. We passed them without them noticing." Brandon smiled grimly. "They thought we were too primitive to be a threat." They thought wrong. The 72 hours passed slowly. On the council station, delegates went about their business as usual. Some discussed the human ultimatum with amusement. Most forgot about it entirely. Earth was not important enough to worry about. Counselor was different. She was a member of the feline species, with golden fur and sharp green eyes that missed very little. While other counselors laughed, she researched. While they dismissed humanity, she investigated. What she found disturbed her greatly. Earth was classified as a death world. The gravity was higher than most civilized planets. The weather was violent and unpredictable. The native diseases were deadly to most species. The animals were aggressive predators. Humans had evolved in conditions that would kill half the species in the council. More worrying was human history. Read about Earth's wars, the great conflicts that had killed millions, the weapons they had created, the determination they showed in combat. Humans did not surrender easily. They did not accept defeat without fighting. They were persistent, stubborn, and dangerously creative when threatened. And the council had just threatened them. Tried to warn. She went to his office 3 hours before the deadline expired. "Chancellor, I believe we should reconsider the human situation," she said carefully. Why did not look up from his work? "The matter is decided. Because humanity may be more dangerous than we assumed. Their world is harsh. Their history is violent. They have survived conditions that would destroy most species. Perhaps their silence these 50 years was not weakness." Then what was it? Patience. Finally looked at her. "You worry too much. Humans are harmless. They have shown us nothing but compliance and submission since joining the council. They lack the courage to resist. Or they were waiting for the right moment to resist. The deadline expires in 3 hours. You will see that nothing happens. Earth will accept the decree because they have no choice." Left the office unsatisfied. She returned to her quarters and sent a coded message to her, just a warning, just in case. The deadline arrived at exactly midnight, Council Standard Time. Lisa stood on the bridge of the horizon with Jake and Amy. They watched the countdown on the main display. 10 seconds, 5 seconds, 0. "Send it," Lisa said. Amy's fingers moved over the communication console. The message went out on every frequency in every language. Every species in council space would receive it. Every ship, every station, every world. "This is Earth Command to the Galactic Council. You were given 72 hours to rescind the colonial decree. You chose not to act. Protocol silence is now terminated. We are revealing our true capabilities. All human colonies will remain under Earth authority. Any attempt to seize them will be met with force. This is your final warning. What happens next is your choice." Received the message in his office. He read it twice, then laughed. He sent orders to Fleet Commander Axe immediately. 3 battle groups were to move on the human colonies at once. The Council would show Earth what happened to species that made threats they could not back up. Fleet Commander Axe was a veteran of 16 campaigns. He had fought pirates, rebels, and hostile species. He had never lost a battle. He assembled his forces with confidence. 30 warships, heavily armed and equipped with the best technology the Council could provide. They jumped to hyperspace heading for Hope's Landing. They would teach the humans a lesson about empty threats. In the Lunar Command Center, alarms chimed softly. Brandon Hayes watched the tactical display update. "Council fleet moving on Hope's Landing," an officer reported. 3 battle groups, approximately 30 ships. "Is the Defiance in position?" Brandon asked. "Yes, sir. Captain Sanders reports ready." Brandon took a deep breath. 50 years of preparation came down to this moment. "Tell Captain Sanders she is cleared to engage. Rules of engagement are defensive only. Disable their ships if possible. Destroy them if necessary, but let them fire first." "Yes, sir." Brandon looked at the display showing the Defiance. The ship's icon glowed steady and bright. Sanders and her crew were about to show the galaxy what humanity had become. The message reached the Defiance within seconds, stood from her command chair. "All hands to battle stations," she said calmly. "This is not a drill. Power weapons. Raise shields. Move us between the Council fleet and the colony." The Defiance glided forward out of its hiding position. Its engines flared bright blue as it accelerated. On the planet below, 50,000 humans looked up at the sky and saw their protection arrive. The Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace exactly where predicted, 30 ships in perfect formation. Fleet Commander Axe stood on his flagship bridge, expecting to see defenseless human settlements. Instead, he saw the Defiance. Fleet Commander Axe stared at on his flagship. The human vessel floated between his battle group and the colony planet. It was large, larger than he expected. Its hull was smooth and dark, unlike the blocky cargo ships humans usually flew, but size meant nothing. His fleet had 30 warships. The humans had one. "Scan that vessel," Axe ordered. "Full tactical analysis." His sensor officer worked quickly, then frowned at the results. "Commander, the scans are being deflected. Their hull material is absorbing our sensor beams. I can give you size and position, but I cannot read their weapons or shield strength." "It does not matter." Axe activated the communication channel. "Human vessel, you are interfering with Council military operations. Move aside immediately or be destroyed." On the bridge of the Defiance, Captain Sanders listened to the transmission. She looked at her crew. They were young, most of them. The oldest was 40. They had trained for this moment their entire careers. Now it was real. "Open a channel," said. "Fleet Commander Axe, you are approaching a human colony with hostile intent. Turn back now. This is your only warning." Axe laughed. The sound came through clearly over the channel. "One ship against 30, you humans truly are foolish. Last chance, move or die." "Cut the channel." She turned to her tactical officer. "Greg, make sure your targeting is precise. I want their weapons and engines disabled if possible. No casualties unless they force us." "Understood, Captain." All crew brace for combat, settled into her command chair. Her hands were steady, her voice was calm. "Let's show them what we can do." Axe did not wait. He gave the order to fire. 6 of his warships opened up with particle beams and missile salvos. The space between the fleets lit up with weapons fire. Enough firepower to destroy a small moon streaked toward the Defiance. The human ship's shields flared bright blue as the weapons struck. The energy washed over the barrier like water against stone. When the light faded, the Defiance remained untouched. Its shields had not even flickered. On Axe's bridge, silence fell. His weapons officer checked the readings 3 times before speaking. "Commander, their shields absorbed everything. Our weapons had no effect." "Fire again," Axe snapped. "Full barrage all ships." 30 warships opened fire simultaneously. The space around the Defiance became a storm of energy and explosives. The colony planet below could see the flashes from the surface. For 30 seconds, the Council fleet poured everything they had into the human ship. The Defiance's shields held. Not just held, they barely seemed strained. The blue barrier remained steady and strong. Watched her display calmly. "Their weapons are 40% weaker than our projections. Dr. Park's estimates were correct." She looked at Greg. "Return fire, disable only, show them the difference." The Defiance's main particle cannon fired once. The beam was thin and bright, precisely controlled. It struck the nearest Council warship directly on its engine section. The ship's power systems overloaded instantly. Lights flickered out across its hull. It drifted helplessly, dead in space but intact. 2 more beams lanced out. 2 more Council ships went dark. The Defiance fired with surgical precision, each shot hitting exactly where intended. In 15 seconds, 6 Council warships were disabled and drifting. Axe stood frozen on his bridge. His fleet had just hit the human ship with enough firepower to level a city. The human ship had not even been scratched. Then it had fired 3 times and crippled 6 of his best vessels. 3 shots, 6 ships. "Retreat," he said quietly, then louder. "All ships retreat to hyperspace coordinates Delta 9. Move now." The Council fleet scattered. Ships turned frantically and jumped away. Within minutes, only the disabled vessels remained, their crews safe but powerless. The Defiance did not pursue. It simply held position, watching them go. On the colony planet, 50,000 humans watched the sky and cheered. Their defenders had come. Earth had kept its promise. News of the battle reached the Council station within the hour. More reports came flooding in. At the second human colony, another Earth warship had appeared and defeated 2 Council battle groups without taking damage. At the third colony, 3 human ships had driven off an entire fleet. But that was not the worst news. The worst news came from deep space scanners. Earth's hidden fleet was revealing itself. 200 warships emerged from hiding across human territory. 200 ships that matched or exceeded the Defiance in capability. Ships the Council never knew existed. High Chancellor received the reports in stunned silence. He read each one carefully, then read them again. It was impossible. Humans did not have this technology. They could not have built this fleet. The Council had monitored Earth's industrial output for 50 years. They had inspected human shipyards. They had examined human technology. How had they missed this? Entered his office without knocking. "I tried to warn you," she said. Her voice was sharp with anger. "I told you humanity might be dangerous." "How did they build this?" demanded. "Where did they hide it? How did our intelligence fail so completely?" "Because we assumed they were primitive. We saw what we wanted to see. We thought their compliance meant weakness." Pulled up a holographic display. It showed human space with the new fleet positions marked in red. "Look at this. They planned everything. Every ship was positioned to defend a colony or critical installation. They have been preparing for this for decades." "What do they want?" "What they said: respect, sovereignty, the right to govern their own colonies." Turned off the display. "What did you think would happen? You tried to take their worlds. You threatened their people. Did you really believe they would just accept it? They should have negotiated, should have compromised." "They did negotiate. For 50 years. They followed every rule, accepted every restriction, swallowed every insult. They gave you 50 years to treat them fairly." His tail lashed in agitation. "You failed. Now they are showing you what happens when patience runs out." Stood and walked to his window. The Council station stretched out below, a massive structure housing thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds. He had led this council for 20 years. He had maintained peace and order. He had been certain of his power. Now a species he had dismissed as irrelevant had revealed they could probably defeat the entire council fleet if they chose to fight. "What do you recommend?" he asked quietly. "Stop," said simply. "Stop now before this becomes a war. Rescind the decree, apologize, grant them full sovereignty, give them the respect they have earned." "The Council will never accept that. We will look weak." "You are weak, at least against humanity. The choice now is whether you look weak and wise or weak and foolish. If you keep pushing, they will push back harder. Do you want to find out what else they have hidden?" Did not answer, left him standing at the window. On Earth, in the Lunar Command Center, Brandon Hayes watched the tactical displays with satisfaction. Every colony was now protected. Every Council fleet that had approached had retreated. Not a single human had died in the fighting. The Council ships that had been disabled could be easily repaired. Earth had shown its strength without excessive violence. Admiral Foster appeared on the main screen. He was aboard the heavy cruiser Valiant, commanding the Earth fleet from the flagship position. Was 52 years old with gray hair cut military short. He had spent 30 years preparing for this moment. "All positions secure, Commander," reported. Council fleets are withdrawing across the board. We have established defensive perimeters around all human territory. No casualties on our side. Council casualties are minimal, mostly minor injuries during evacuations of disabled ships. Good work, Admiral. Maintain defensive positions. Do not advance beyond our territory. We are not conquerors. Understood. What about the Council? What do we expect them to do next? Brandon looked at another display showing the Council station. They have three options: accept defeat and negotiate, escalate to full war, or try for a compromise. We need to be ready for all three. If they escalate, then we show them more of what we have. The fleet you are commanding is our first generation of warships. We have prototypes that are even better. We have weapons we have not deployed. We have defensive systems they have not seen. If they want war, we can give them war. But you hope they choose negotiation. I hope they choose wisdom. 50 years ago, we chose to be patient instead of aggressive. We chose to build in secret instead of building an empire. We chose peace. I hope the Council can make the same choice. Nodded. What about the civilians? The colonies are nervous. They are asking questions. Tell them the truth. Tell them Earth has always been watching. Tell them we never forgot them, never abandoned them. Tell them the wait is over. The message went out across human space within the hour. Earth's government made an official statement to all colonies, all stations, all settlements. It explained protocol silence. It described the secret preparations, the hidden fleet, the long-term strategy. It told humanity's story. The reaction was overwhelming. Relief, pride, anger at being kept in the dark, gratitude for being protected. Every human colony celebrated. They had felt abandoned by Earth for decades. Now they knew the truth. Earth had been silent but never absent. On the Council station, ambassadors from dozens of species demanded emergency sessions. Some wanted to negotiate with Earth immediately. Others called for war. A few suggested simply leaving humanity alone and hoping they stayed in their own territory. Was among those demanding war. We cannot allow this insult to stand, he hissed to anyone who would listen. If we let humanity defy us, others will follow. The Council's authority will crumble. But found fewer supporters than expected. Many species were reconsidering their positions. They looked at the tactical reports and realized something disturbing. If humanity could hide this much military power for 50 years, what else were they capable of? What other surprises might they have prepared? And more important, if Earth could build this fleet, why had they not used it to conquer territory? Why had they remained in their small corner of space? Why had they waited until threatened before revealing their strength? These questions made some counselors nervous. They made others thoughtful. A species that built weapons but did not use them for conquest was unusual in the galaxy. A species that suffered insults quietly while growing stronger was even more unusual. Perhaps humanity was more dangerous than anyone had realized, not because of what they had done, but because of what they had chosen not to do. Called an emergency meeting of moderate council members. 15 species sent representatives. They met in a secure chamber, away from the main council floor. We need to end this before it becomes a real war, said. Earth has shown remarkable restraint so far. They disabled our ships instead of destroying them. They defended their territory but did not invade ours. They are offering us a way out. What way? Asked a delegate from the crystalline species. Respect them, that is all they want. Grant them full sovereignty, remove the restrictions, treat them as equals, displayed the casualty reports. Look at this. 0 human casualties, minimal council casualties. Earth could have killed thousands but chose not to. They are trying to make peace possible. We'll never agree, another delegate said. His pride will not allow it. Then perhaps should not be chancellor anymore. The room went silent. Removing a sitting chancellor was rare, difficult, and dangerous, but it was possible. The council had rules for such things. Think carefully, continued. If we keep in power, he will escalate. His pride is wounded. He will call for total war rather than admit mistake. And if we go to war with humanity, what happens? They have 200 advanced warships. How many do they have in reserve? What other weapons have they not shown us? The delegates looked at each other. The same fear was visible in every face. They had underestimated humanity once. They did not want to make that mistake again. We need time to convince others, one delegate said. Time to build support for removing. We may not have time, warned. Is already planning something. I can see it in how he moves, how he speaks. He is going to make a grand gesture, something to restore council pride. Then we need to stop him. But they were too late. Was already issuing orders. Orders that would force humanity to choose between submission and war. The council's grand armada was being assembled. The call to arms went across the galaxy. Used every channel, every connection, every favor he had accumulated in his 20 years as High Chancellor. He called it a defense of council authority. He called it necessary to maintain order. He called it justice. He was really calling it revenge. Ships began arriving at the designated assembly point within hours. Battle cruisers from the Empire, carrier groups from the Union, dreadnoughts from a dozen smaller species. Every vessel that could be spared, every captain willing to fight, every species loyal to the council, promised them glory. He promised them victory. He promised them that humanity would be taught a lesson about challenging superior civilizations. Within 3 days, over 4,000 warships had assembled. It was the largest fleet the council had gathered in 200 years. The last time they had needed this many ships was during the rebellion, and that war had lasted 3 years and cost millions of lives. Watched the assembly from her quarters. She had tried to stop it. She had argued with directly presented evidence of human capabilities, begged for more time to negotiate. He had dismissed her completely. He was convinced that the human victories were flukes, tricks, that once faced with overwhelming force, humanity would surrender. She sent a message to Ambassador Lisa, a private communication heavily encrypted. It contained just a few words. He is coming with everything, thousands of ships. I am sorry. I tried to stop him. Prepare for war. Lisa received the message on the horizon. She read it 3 times, then showed it to Jake. We knew this might happen, Jake said. Brandon has contingency plans. Contingency plans assume reasonable opposition. 4,000 ships is not reasonable. That is genocide force. Lisa looked out at the stars. If we fight that fleet, thousands will die, maybe more. The council has families too, children, innocent people who have nothing to do with pride. So what do? We give them one more chance, and we show them something that might make them think twice. Earth's response was swift and coordinated. Admiral Foster moved the human fleet into a defensive formation unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Instead of spreading out to defend individual colonies, every ship pulled back to form a perimeter around the central human colony of New Washington. 200 warships arranged in perfect geometric patterns, overlapping their shield coverage, creating an impenetrable wall. But they did not just defend, they showed what else they could do. Dr. Park had spent 30 years developing weapons systems. Most had been deployed on the current fleet, but some had been held in reserve, waiting for the moment when Earth needed to demonstrate absolute capability. That moment had arrived. The human ships activated new systems simultaneously. Energy began building in specialized arrays along their hulls. Space itself seemed to ripple around them as exotic particles were generated and contained in powerful fields. "What are they doing?" asked a council scout ship captain who was observing from a safe distance. His sensor officer stared at the readings in disbelief. "They are creating artificial singularities, controlled black holes. Sir, that technology should not be possible. The energy requirements alone would drain an entire planet's power grid. But they are doing it anyway. Yes, sir. And those singularities are being used as power sources. Their ships just increased output by a factor of 10. The scout ship sent the data back to the Council fleet. When saw it, he went pale. Artificial singularity power. It was theoretical. Scientists had been working on it for centuries without success. Humanity had somehow solved it. If they could do that, what else could they do? Admiral Foster stood on the bridge of the Valiant, watching the formation come together. His ships were ready. His crews were prepared. But he did not want to use what they had built. He wanted the Council to see it and understand that fighting was pointless. "Open a channel," said. "Galaxy-wide broadcast. I want everyone to hear this." The communication went out on every frequency. Every ship in space would receive it. Every station. Every world with receivers. Its message would reach billions of beings. "This is Admiral Foster of Earth Fleet Command. I am speaking directly to High Chancellor and the assembled Council Armada. You are approaching human space with overwhelming force. You believe numbers will guarantee victory. You are wrong." Gestured to his tactical officer. Images appeared in the transmission, showing the human fleet's new capabilities. The singularity power systems, advanced weapons that could crack planets, shield technology that could withstand sustained bombardment from hundreds of ships, faster-than-light systems that could outrun anything the Council had. "We have shown you a fraction of what we built during 50 years of silence. We can show you more. We can demonstrate weapons that would horrify you. We can deploy defenses that would frustrate every attack you make. We can fight a war that would last decades and cost millions of lives on both sides." Paused, letting that sink in. "But we do not want to. We never wanted war. We wanted respect. We wanted the right to live in peace. We wanted to be treated as equals, not as primitives to be managed and controlled. That is still all we want." The transmission showed the human colonies, families, children playing in parks, farmers working fields, scientists in laboratories, teachers in schools, normal people living normal lives. "These are the people you are threatening. They are not soldiers. They are not warriors. They are citizens who came to these worlds seeking a better life. They built homes. They raised families. They harmed no one. And you decided to take everything from them because you believed they were too weak to resist." His voice hardened. "You were wrong. We are not weak. We are strong, strong enough to defeat your fleet if you force us to fight, but we are also strong enough to offer you peace. One final time I am asking you to turn back, rescind the colonial decree, grant us sovereignty, treat us with the respect that every sapient species deserves. Do this and there will be no war. Do this and we can build a better relationship. Do this and prove that the Council values wisdom over pride." The transmission showed the alternative. Tactical simulations of what a war would look like. Human ships using their superior technology to devastating effect. Council vessels disabled and destroyed by the thousands. The simulations were not boastful or exaggerated. They were cold, clinical predictions based on actual capability comparisons. "If you attack us, we will defend ourselves with every weapon we have developed. We will not surrender. We will not retreat. We will fight until either you stop or we stop you. The choice is yours, Chancellor. Choose wisdom. Choose peace. Choose life over death." Ended the transmission. Across the galaxy, billions of beings had heard Earth's message. They had seen what humanity could do. They had been offered a choice between peace and destruction. Now they waited to see what the Council would decide. On the flagship of the Council Armada watched the transmission with growing horror. The artificial singularity technology alone was enough to change everything. But there was more. The simulations showed weapons systems he had never imagined, defensive capabilities that seemed impossible. If even half of what the humans showed was real, his fleet would be massacred. But if he turned back now, his authority would be destroyed. Other species would see that he had been faced down by a species he had called primitive. His leadership would be questioned. He might even be removed from power. Pride warred with practicality in his mind. His pride screamed to attack, to prove that numbers still mattered, to show humanity their place. His practical sense whispered that this was suicide, that Earth had been preparing for this exact scenario, that they would not have revealed so much if they were not completely confident. Fleet Commander Axe entered the bridge. He had recovered from his defeat at Hope's Landing, though the humiliation still burned. He looked at the tactical displays showing both fleets. "Chancellor, I recommend we withdraw," Axe said quietly. Turned to him in surprise. "You want to run?" "I want to survive, sir. I fought their ships. I saw what they can do. These tactical projections match what I experienced. If anything, I think the humans are still holding back. They could have destroyed my entire fleet at Hope's Landing. They disabled our ships instead. They showed mercy." "Mercy is weakness." "No, sir. Mercy is confidence. They were so certain of their superiority that they did not need to kill us. They proved their point without wasting lives. That is not weakness. That is terrifying strength." Other officers on the bridge nodded. They had all reviewed the reports from the first engagements. They had all seen how easily human ships had defeated Council forces. None of them wanted to lead their crews into a battle they could not win. Looked around at his command staff. He saw doubt, fear, reluctance. These were experienced officers who had served him for years. If they believed the fight was hopeless, perhaps it was. But then he thought about his legacy. 20 years as Chancellor. 20 years of maintaining Council authority. If he backed down now, those 20 years would be remembered as ending in failure and humiliation. "Prepare to advance," ordered. "We will proceed to human space. If they want to stop us, they will have to fire first." "Sir," Axe protested, "this is madness." "This is necessary. The Council cannot appear weak. We advance. That is final." The Council armada began moving. 4,000 warships entered hyperspace, heading for human territory. The journey would take 6 hours. In that time, the galaxy held its breath and waited to see if a devastating war was about to begin. Lisa watched from the horizon as the Council fleet approached. She had moved her ship away from the combat zone, but she could see everything through long-range sensors. She opened a secure channel to Brandon Hayes on Earth. "They are coming," she said. "Refuse to back down." "I know." Brandon's face on the screen looked tired but determined. "We will do what we must. Admiral Foster has his orders. We will defend our people." "How many will die, Brandon?" "As few as possible. We'll try to disable rather than destroy. But if the Council forces us to choose between their lives and ours, we choose ours. That is not evil. That is survival." "I know. I just wish there was another way." "There was 50 years of other ways. We tried patience. We tried diplomacy. We tried compliance. Rejected all of it. This is on him, not us." The Council fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of human space. They found the human fleet waiting. 200 ships against 4,000. By any reasonable calculation, the outcome should have been obvious. But nothing about humanity was reasonable by Council standards. Admiral Foster opened a final communication channel. "Council fleet, this is your last chance. Turn back now. We do not want to fight you." Responded personally. "Human Admiral, you are outnumbered 20-1. Surrender now and the Council will show mercy. Resist and you will be destroyed." Looked at his tactical officer. "Are we ready?" "All systems charged, Admiral. All ships report ready status. Dr. Park's special surprise is online and waiting." "Then let's show them what humanity really is." Open the fleet-wide channel. "All ships, weapons free. Defend your positions. Protect your brothers and sisters. Make Earth proud." 200 human voices responded as one. "For Earth, for humanity, for those who cannot fight." The Council fleet advanced. Weapons charged, shields activated, 4,000 ships moving in perfect formation, ready to crush the human defenders. And then the humans did something completely unexpected. They did not move to attack. They did not scatter defensively. They did not even power up their weapons. Instead, every human ship activated its singularity drive simultaneously. Space warped. Energy poured from impossible sources. And between the two fleets a barrier appeared. Not shields, not weapons. A gravitational anomaly that bent space itself. Any ship trying to cross it would be torn apart by tidal forces. Any weapon fired through it would be deflected or absorbed. The humans had created an impassable wall between themselves and their enemies. And they had done it without firing a single shot. The gravitational barrier stretched across space like an invisible wall. Council sensors could detect it but could not penetrate it. Any ship that approached too closely felt its hull groan from the stress. Any weapon fired at it simply vanished, pulled into the warped space and torn apart. On the Council flagship, stared at the phenomenon in disbelief. What is that? His science officer worked frantically at the sensor station. It is a controlled gravitational anomaly, Chancellor. They are using their singularity drives to warp space itself. Nothing can pass through it. If we try, the tidal forces will destroy our ships. Then go around it. Sir, the barrier extends in all directions. It surrounds their entire defensive perimeter. To go around it would take weeks. Then disperse it, find its weak points and break through. The science officer shook his head slowly. There are no weak points. It is being generated by 200 separate sources working in perfect harmony. To break it, we would need to disrupt all the generators simultaneously. That would require us to get past the barrier itself. It is impossible. Slammed his fist on the command console. They trapped us. We cannot advance, cannot attack, cannot do anything. Fleet Commander Axe spoke carefully. Perhaps that is the point, sir. They are showing us they can defend without killing. They are proving they do not need to destroy us to defeat us. It changes nothing. We still have them surrounded. Do we, or do they have exactly what they want? They are safe behind their barrier. Their colonies are protected. We are sitting here wasting time and resources while they remain comfortable. Who is really winning this standoff? Had no answer. The truth was becoming clear even to him. Humanity had won without firing a shot. They had proven their technological superiority and their strategic thinking. Worse, they had done it in a way that made the Council look foolish rather than defeated. Thousands of ships, decades of military buildup, all stopped by a defensive measure so elegant it seemed almost mocking. A communication came through from the Council station. It was voice, cold and formal. Chancellor, the Council has called an emergency vote. Your presence is required immediately. You are being recalled. I am commanding a fleet. You are being removed from command. The vote has already begun. Return to the station now or be declared in violation of Council law. The channel closed, looked around his bridge. His officers avoided his eyes. They knew what was happening. The Chancellor was being deposed. After 20 years of leadership, his time was ending because he had made one critical mistake. He had underestimated humanity and refused to admit it when proven wrong. Fleet Commander Axe, you have command, said quietly. Do whatever you believe is right. Left the bridge. Within the hour, his shuttle was heading back to the Council station. He did not look back at the fleet he was leaving behind. Axe took the command chair and immediately opened a channel to Admiral Foster. Human Admiral, this is Fleet Commander Axe. I am now in command of the Council fleet. I would like to discuss terms for a peaceful resolution. Appeared on the, he looked tired but relieved. Commander, I am glad to hear that. What do you propose? First, I must ask, can you maintain that barrier indefinitely? For months if necessary. Our power systems are self-sustaining. We could wait you out, but I would rather not. Keeping thousands of ships here serves no purpose. Axe nodded slowly. I agree. I have a proposal. I will order my fleet to withdraw to a neutral position. In return, you will drop the barrier and agree not to advance beyond your current territory. Then we let the Council and your government negotiate proper terms. No more fighting. No more posturing. Just honest discussion between equals. Equals? That is all we ever wanted, Commander. I understand that now. I should have understood it at Hope's Landing when your Captain Sanders disabled my ships without destroying them. That was not the action of a primitive species. That was the action of a wise one. The two commanders worked out the details over the next hour. The Council fleet would withdraw to a position 10 light-years from human space. The gravitational barrier would be dropped once the withdrawal was complete. Both sides would maintain defensive positions but make no aggressive moves. Ambassadors would meet on a neutral station to negotiate. As the Council fleet began moving away, broadcast a message to all human ships. Stand down from battle stations. Maintain alert status but power down weapons. We won without fighting. That is the best possible outcome. Across human space, 200 warships relaxed their postures. Crews who had been prepared for a devastating battle instead found themselves celebrating a victory achieved through strength held in reserve. They had shown what humanity could do without actually doing it. They had proven their point without proving it in blood. On Earth, Brandon Hayes watched from the Lunar Command Center as the crisis resolved. Dr. Park stood beside him, both men exhausted from days without sleep. "We did it," said quietly. 50 years of preparation, and we never had to use most of it. That was always the goal. Build enough strength that we never need to prove it. Show enough capability that no one wants to test it. Be strong enough that being peaceful is a choice, not a necessity. Do you think they will really negotiate in good faith now? They have to. We showed them we can defend ourselves. We showed them we have technology they do not understand. But we also showed them we do not want to conquer anyone. We just want to be left alone to live our lives. That makes us different from most species they have dealt with, different enough to be worth respecting. At the Council station, took the position of acting chancellor. The vote had been overwhelming. Even strongest supporters had abandoned him once the full scope of his failure became clear. His first act was to send a formal communication to Earth. "Ambassador, this is acting chancellor. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize for the treatment humanity has received over the past 50 years. The colonial decree was unjust and is hereby rescinded permanently. I would like to invite you to formal negotiations to establish a new relationship between Earth and the Council, one based on mutual respect and equality." Lisa received the message with quiet satisfaction. She had spent 12 years being ignored and dismissed. Now the Council was asking for her time, her attention, her government's cooperation. The change was dramatic and deeply gratifying. "I accept your invitation, Chancellor. Earth is prepared to negotiate in good faith. We have no desire for revenge or retribution. We want what we have always wanted: fair treatment, sovereign rights, and the freedom to chart our own course among the stars." The negotiations began 2 weeks later on a neutral station called Unity Point. It was specially built for diplomatic meetings between species that did not trust each other. The station had no weapons, no military presence, just conference rooms and living quarters. Lisa led the human delegation. She brought advisors, legal experts, and military observers. Admiral Foster attended to explain Earth's defensive capabilities and to assure the Council that humanity had no aggressive intentions. Dr. Park came to discuss technology sharing, though he made it clear that singularity drive technology would remain Earth's secret for now. Led the Council delegation. She brought representatives from 50 different species, including some who had opposed from the start and others who had supported him but now regretted it. Fleet Commander Axe attended as well, having been promoted for his reasonable handling of the crisis. The negotiations took 3 months. They covered every aspect of human council relations: territory rights, trade agreements, military cooperation, technology exchange, political representation, cultural exchange programs. It was exhaustive, detailed, and sometimes frustrating, but both sides were committed to finding solutions. The final agreement was comprehensive. Earth received full sovereign rights over all current colonies and the right to expand to unclaimed systems. Humans would have a permanent seat on the Council's ruling body with full voting rights. Council species would be allowed to visit human space with proper permits, and humans could travel Council space freely. Technology sharing would be voluntary and mutually beneficial. Military cooperation would be offered but not required. Most importantly, the agreement included a clause specifically written by Lisa. All Council species will be treated with respect and dignity regardless of their technological level, military strength, or political influence. Might does not make right. Justice must be blind to power. It was a direct rebuke of everything had represented. It was a promise that what happened to humanity would not happen to others. On the day the agreement was signed, delegations from 300 species gathered at Unity Point. The ceremony was broadcast across the galaxy. Lisa signed for Earth, signed for the Council. The documents were sealed and distributed. "Today marks a new beginning," said in her speech. "Humanity taught us a valuable lesson. They taught us that strength comes in many forms: physical strength, technological strength, military strength, but also moral strength. The strength to be patient when provoked, the strength to show mercy when capable of vengeance, the strength to seek peace when prepared for war." Lisa spoke next. "For 50 years, Earth remained silent. We were not silent because we were weak. We were silent because we hoped wisdom would prevail. We hoped that by following the rules, by being good neighbors, by causing no trouble, we would earn respect naturally. We were wrong, but we learned from that mistake. We learned that respect must sometimes be taken, not given. We learned that strength and peace are not opposites but partners. We are strong so that we can be peaceful. We are capable so that we can be kind. We are prepared so that we can be patient." The signing ceremony ended with a surprising gesture. Admiral Foster presented with a gift. It was a small crystal containing detailed specifications for one of Earth's defensive shield systems. Not the most advanced one, but good enough to significantly improve Council defensive capabilities. "This is a sign of good faith," said. "We are willing to share what we have learned. Not everything, not yet, but enough to show we want to be partners, not competitors." Accepted the gift with visible emotion. "Thank you, Admiral. This means more than you know." The delegations departed Unity Point over the next few days. Lisa returned to Earth for the first time in 12 years. She was welcomed as a hero. The woman who had endured insults and dismissal with quiet dignity. The diplomat who never gave up on peace even when peace seemed impossible. Brandon Hayes met her at the spaceport. "Welcome home, Ambassador. You did well." "We all did well. You, Admiral Foster, Captain Sanders, Dr. Park, everyone who worked on Protocol Silence. We succeeded together. What happens now? What will you do next?" Lisa smiled. "I am going to retire. Let someone else be Earth's voice for a while. I have earned a rest." "You have. What about the Council? What do you think happens there?" "They will change. Slowly, but they will change. We showed them that being strong does not require being cruel, that being peaceful does not require being weak. Some species will learn that lesson quickly, others will take time, but the lesson is out there now. Humanity proved it is possible to be both powerful and principled." High above Earth, the human fleet maintained its positions. The gravitational barrier technology was deactivated but not dismantled. The singularity drives remained operational. The advanced weapons stayed loaded and ready. Earth had revealed its strength, and that strength was not going away. But the fleet's mission had changed. They were no longer hidden guardians waiting for a threat. They were visible protectors, a reminder of what humanity could do and what humanity chose not to do. They defended but did not threaten. They watched but did not intimidate. They were strong so that Earth could be peaceful. Captain Sanders stood on the bridge of the Defiance, looking at the planet below. 50,000 colonists on Hope's Landing were safe. 2 million humans across all colonies were secure. Earth's sovereignty was guaranteed. The mission that had begun 50 years ago with a decision to build in secret had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations. "What are you thinking about, Captain?" asked Greg Turner, her tactical officer. "I am thinking about silence," said. "For 50 years, we were silent while we grew strong. Now we are strong, but we do not need to be loud. Sometimes the most powerful statement is the one you do not make. The most impressive weapon is the one you do not fire. The greatest victory is the one achieved without fighting." "Do you think the Council understands that now?" "Some do, others will learn, and if any species forgets, we will remind them, not with threats or violence, just by being here, by being ready, by showing that humanity's silence was always temporary and our patience always finite." On the Council station, settled into her role as Chancellor. She had been elected to a full term after serving as acting Chancellor during the negotiations. Her first major initiative was creating a review board to examine how other species were being treated. She did not want another situation like humanity's to develop. "We cannot let power blind us to justice," she told the Council. "Every species deserves respect. Every civilization has the right to self-determination. We exist to maintain peace and facilitate cooperation, not to dominate and control." It was a dramatic shift from philosophy. Not everyone agreed with it. Some species grumbled about the changes, but most recognized that the galaxy had shifted. Humanity had proven that the old ways of thinking were dangerous, that underestimating others led to disaster. That might alone was not enough to guarantee authority. Years later, when historians studied this period, they would call it the Great Awakening. The moment when the Galactic Council learned that silence did not mean submission, that patience was not weakness, that a species could be both advanced and humble, both powerful and peaceful, both capable and careful. Earth remained silent for 50 years until the moment came to speak, and when humanity finally spoke, the galaxy listened. Not because they were forced to, but because they realized they should have been listening all along. The lesson was learned, the price was paid, the future was open. And Earth, having proven its strength, returned to the quiet work of building a civilization worthy of the stars.